And welcome to TullyVision with Tully Blanchard. I'm Matt Kuhn, replacing guest hosting for Conrad Thompson today. But it's my pleasure because, unlike Conrad, I was around watching this stuff when it happened. Tully, thanks for coming on again for ad-free shows for TullyVision.
Well, it's my pleasure, Matt, and thank you for being able to step in and pinch hit for Conrad. It's always a thrill to be here on TullyVision.
It's an amazing experience that we get to do, which is a lot of times just documenting what you've been through. A lot of stuff, of course, you've written in your book, and a lot of stuff you've done interviews on. But when you have something in this sequential matter, it allows you to document what went on, and also maybe remember it a little bit. Your career is such that you stopped early, and so a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, the moments mean more to the fans than the wrestlers themselves. So, with what we're talking about today, the Great American Bash 1987 lights out barbed wire ladder match, was this something you had a vivid memory of, or is this something you kind of had to jog the memory a little bit?
Mhm. Had to jog just a little bit. Um, I remember when we went from the Charlotte Coliseum to the stadium just down the street, and it was in the summer and it was hot, and Flair came in and helicopter and all the excitement, and the the culmination of one of the many feuds that I had with Dusty Rhodes was the bunkhouse barbed wire ladder match, money hanging over the ring. And once I watched the match a couple of days ago, I went, and then it all came fluttering back. So
I think the thing that always hits me watching a match of that time is the crowd, is the nonstop cheering, the nonstop enthusiasm. It was a different time then because your paycheck was related to how you drew them in. So how excited they were affected your pay. How important was that for you to get such a great reaction all the time from the fans in that era?
well, that was our goal. I mean, there's no question, and never has been a question, that it's live entertainment, and how you do that and get people to spend their hard-earned money to come and watch you. Uh, and then when you get them to come, having the ability to make them scream the longest and the loudest. And it is so different from uh, the few things that I've seen and been around in the last number of years, uh, because it is, you get so, the audiences chant. When I was just at the WWE event, and they introduced Arn and myself, uh, the match that I watched, the barbed wire match with Dusty, there was good guy, bad guy. It wasn't, I mean, they didn't like me, and they hollered and cussed when I was winning, and when he was winning, they cheered and hollered and spilt beer all over themselves. And it was uh, my object to make people scream. And the only time they did that was when I was getting beat up. And so I got beat up a lot.
And it worked because you both had such well-rounded characters. Everybody who was watching either loved you or hated you, but they knew you. They knew what Dusty was about. They knew what you were about. And that means to me, I guess they could put you two in any kind of ring with everybody knowing any kind of stipulation, with everybody knowing your characters and the heat you guys had on screen. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's what made it easy, right? When you and Dusty got in there, you were in such tune with who you were as characters that it just kind of fell into place a lot of times.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing that was about back in those days, you were just adding another page to the story or another chapter in the story versus having to go out there and start from zero and build and write the whole book. And that was the probably the thing that was made it the easiest because your personality and your uh what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we'll just stick with personality.
Character.
Was character was put on television. You established it on television. And back in those days, we were on Superstation in Atlanta, 6:05 on Saturday nights. And then they had another hour show on Sunday. And then you had the two shows that Crockett produced uh, and syndicated all over the country. And so you were a piece in the big puzzle of who the stars were, and you just had to keep adding on to that, and it made it easier than just going in there cold turkey and okay, nobody knows what we're doing, so it's going to take me 30 minutes of TV time to get people involved. And I kind of like it the old way better, but
Yeah,
I'm an old guy that is set in his ways.
I feel you. You know, and something else that's old is that this feud went on for a long time. Like we're gonna start with Starrcade '86, but I remember Dusty and Tully stuff happening a long time before then. But just in the interest of time, Starrcade '86, you guys had a first blood match for the World TV title.
Yes.
And you won the belt because JJ's wiping the blood off of you and allowing you to the old roll of coins. And now Dusty is chasing you to get the TV title back on house shows, but he's never able to win. So uh, these titles, they really meant a lot. Like I still honestly don't know what a TV title is, but like it was important enough so people
Well,
wanted to see you lose it.
The TV title was technically a one fall 15-minute match. So if I didn't get beat in the first 15 minutes, because that's what the TV titles were, I mean, TV time limits were. And then when Dusty beat me for the TV championship, then it became the World Television Championship, and then it just became another championship. I mean, it was um, it morphed into something bigger than it ever started.
It became important because it was a representation of your feud with Dusty, which you know is a common theme going through the Horsemen. I think it's forgotten in history a little bit. A lot was like your stuff with Dusty, your stuff with Ronnie Garvin, and in this case, keeping Dusty in the mix with the hottest thing going, the Horsemen. In May 1987, there's footage of a meeting at the JCP offices, and you guys are complaining about being forced to wait for Dusty to show up. Dusty finally strolls in with Magnum TA and a grocery bag filled with money. JJ won't agree to sign a televised match unless Tully gets a guaranteed appearance fee. Dusty wants the match so badly that he leans on Jim Crockett to agree to the terms, and Crockett cuts a check on the spot. He produces a contract for June 6th in Greensboro. JJ is mystified to see 1 hour time limit in the contract. It's a standard 25 minutes. The Horsemen have a little powwow about it before JJ signs the contract. Dusty says that his friend Magnum will be at ringside holding the money. Talk about making a match important. Look at all that stuff to make just this one match so important, right?
Yeah, and I had never seen quite that much cash piled up at one time.
Look at it.
Uh,
Wow.
but that was it the thing that makes it was what everybody was talking about, the fans, but the Horsemen were talking about it. So I mean, everybody's match was important. Arn's match was important. Uh, Luger's match at that time, because I saw him in the cut there, which he wasn't Horseman for very long. But it was and then Flair being one of the horsemen, also the world champion, had never been in a group before, so that elevated everybody's uh, uh, stuff all the time, and it was just something different. And the thing that I get asked, and I try to relive, the Arn called. We were having an 8-man tag match, and Arn called us the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And something clicked with the Four Horsemen, and the fans started calling us the Horsemen, and holding up in Greensboro, holding up banners and signs and stuff like that. They named us, and that's what the success of the Horsemen. I've said that for years, was because the fans did it. We didn't do it. We didn't get on in the back room and say, "Oh, hey, we're going to call these guys the Four Horsemen," and and they're going to get over, and they're going to be this. No, the fans did it. And in Greensboro, when they started chanting the Horsemen and that, and I can remember Jim Crockett coming back through the curtain to me, and he says, this is really happening, isn't it?" And I said, I was a little bit of a smart aleck back in those days. I had something smart aleck to say.
You're like, yeah, Tully's here. Of course it's happening. As a fan, absolutely agree with you. My viewpoint was a kid on the other side of the TV, and you had these four guys who just so happened to have kind of the same objectives and the same enemies. We all knew you didn't like Dusty, you didn't like Magnum, you didn't like rock and roll, but you also love titles. And you're feuding with Dusty. Flair's always feuding with Dusty. The moment you guys started appearing on screen together, it was just perfect. Plus, it was a lot like you were kind of like a stand-in for Flair a lot of times, because you easily could have had that Flair spot. Did you kind of feel like maybe you were waiting for that Flair spot a little bit when you were the Horseman?
No, I don't think so. I think we all had our significant roles. I mean, he was the world champion, and nobody was going to take that spot. And then I was the single until then Ole left, and then they needed to put me with Arn, because Luger and then Barry Windham, they were singles, and were I was a much better guy that could do single or tag team. And it was the perfect move, because Arn and uh I told him at the WWE thing, I said, we were the best. And he said, well, they'll all, he always tries to calm everything down, but we were the best. I mean, I've had people say that Gino and I were the best. Well, Gino and I were a very good tag team, but Gino and I had the same style. And the reason that Arn and I were the best is because he was 275 pounds. I was 225, and I did things that he couldn't do, and he did a lot of stuff that I couldn't do. And we complemented each other so well that it was just it was the perfect storm that put he and I together, and it was magnificent.
You know, I liked you as a single, and I liked Ole and Arn as a tag. When it went, you know, the you guys, the Busters together were awesome. But for me, I'm an old school guy, so I go, it's my Horsemen are Flair, Tully, and the Andersons. You know, but I can see, man, that tag team was great. The uh, the feud with Dusty in, sorry, I'm just gonna get back on track because I could just talk about this all day. The feud with Dusty ends up on a just a taping of NWA Worldwide, which is Tully Blanchard versus Dusty Rhodes. It's not just for the TV title. You guys got to get everything in there. It's $100,000 jackpot with each man contributing 50 grand of their own money. Dark Journey has now been added to Tully Blanchard Enterprises. Can you talk about that a little bit? I don't remember Dark Journey and Tully Blanchard Enterprises. How'd that come about? How
She
long did that
was
last?
there. It was short lived, but she was there. And when I was watching the match, JJ and Dark Journey were at the ringside, and I I I don't want I don't know all the details, but I do know that JJ came to me one time and he says, we were in some little bitty town and wrestling Jimmy Valiant. And he said, when are you going to learn to keep your mouth shut? And I said, I am. So sometimes some of the things that were done to me were to reprimand me. And I don't know that this was, but it
Right.
certainly had that
That aura of it.
ambiance about it.
Yes. So it could have just been a rib, like wrestling is a strange place. Of course the fans are going crazy. Dusty is doing his thing, and he's threatening to injure your leg by playing off of his leg injury. Dusty wrenches the leg around the steel guardrail. The crowd loves it. You're limping. Dusty whacks Tully with Magnum's cane. So this is, of course, after the injury to Magnum. They have been bringing Magnum out with Dusty to pop the crowd. The note says here, Magnum takes a swing at Tully. Going to the end of it, Dusty with a sleeper, but Tully makes the ropes. Dusty hits the slingshot suplex. How cool is that? That's something you don't hear of Dusty doing, but in a moment like this, in a match like that, stealing your finisher to use, that's always a good way to get the crowd up, right?
Was I think the fans really appreciated it. The thing he didn't cover me. So I mean I'm the only guy that's ever kicked out of the slingshot suplex. So
Well, he did get the pin, but of course JJ uh steals the money. The cops are following. Tommy Young is called the match off erroneously. Dusty is chasing JJ, and Tommy Young counts Dusty out. So Tommy Young must have thought that Tully had got his foot on the ropes in time. So we had the old Dusty finish. We had, confusion. Dusty runs back to ringside, grabs the house mic, and says, I want my F word money from that son of a B right now. So Dusty was feeling that moment, wasn't he?
16,000 Greensboro no, we were outdoors and there was 25,000 people there.
So in this situation, like the horsemen, especially in Greensboro, we hear about, I forget the section number that Bruce Mitchell was a part of that used to cheer for the horsemen all the time. But Dusty
Yes.
is still, he might be on his waning years, but he's still Dusty. What was the fan, you were particularly hated. Was it a split audience or was it just like, oh, we want Dusty to win this so bad?
Well, it wasn't a split audience. It was you had your group of horseman fans that were diehard. But in 25,000 people, you might have 3,000 horseman fans and everybody else was rooting for Dusty. So it was pretty loud on
That sounds like
Independence Boulevard.
That sounds like the perfect ratio to make money. Like you have a 3,000 minority who really love the bad guys. The rest are on board with the good guys. It seems like you got to have at least some people liking the bad guys for it to work out, because,
Well, my dad always told me that if the wrestling fans respect you, they will hate you even more. So we weren't. I mean, we could all wrestle, and we proved it that we could wrestle. We proved it every night that we could wrestle, and then we did other stuff, and it was it held true through this whole period of time. The better that you could go out and perform and have a match, the more the wrestling fans would dislike you, or the few strange ones that were the bad guy lovers, they would love you even more. And it was it I don't know of any other time in professional wrestling that was as explosive as when cable television was changing the whole territory thing, and we were on the superstation and we were traveling. We went from traveling over 3 states to traveling over the whole country, and it was a phenomenal time in wrestling.
And so much of that was done within the confines of the studio audience. The small studio audience that I actually got to hang out with one David Crockett a few weeks ago, and he was telling me about the taping schedule, and it must have presented a certain amount of challenges to try to get an angle across or draw. I see a lot of these tapings you guys did the same day, so you're trying to get people to come to that show that night. That must have been a little more difficult thing or a different thing than getting that kind of heat in a big arena, right?
Well, the syndicated show wasn't in a lot of gymnasiums and stuff like that, where the audience was maybe 5,000, which is huge for a TV show. The one that was difficult was the Superstation in studio on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock
Right.
in front of 14 people. It's hard to get an audience uh, to respond to what you're doing.
And you guys would tape in the morning for a show that came out in the afternoon, right? Like it came out
The
that day.
yeah yeah Turner
It's crazy.
wanted the TV show taped in his studio, and it would air that night. So when we did the first show, we could say tonight, and then when we did the second show, it aired on Sunday, depending on when the Braves played, and we could say, tonight in such and such on Sunday night, and that would work. And then we had to do the all the interviews for the syndicated show that we went out every week.
That's such a schedule because to me it's such a it's almost like working for your dinner, like you guys would go out there and plug the show for the Omni that night, you know, like that night. So you're watching TV that day, you're recording it that morning, and then you're pushing a match that night. It is crazy the amount of work you guys would do. And how much pride did you take in filling up the arenas? If it wasn't filled up, did you blame yourself?
Absolutely, but it was rare. It was rare that we didn't have full arenas during that period of time, and so it was. But it was the work pace was uh, golly.
Insane.
I don't want anybody to feel sorry for you, but it was if we were in uh, on the West Coast, we'd fly back to Atlanta, get in there at 2 in the morning, at the TV studio at 10 in the morning, leave, get on a plane, and fly to wherever we were wrestling on Saturday night because it wasn't in Atlanta
Right, right,
99% of the time.
right.
And then back to Charlotte. If we were east of the Mississippi River, we went back to Charlotte, um, and then had a double shot on Sunday. So you'd get up, get on the plane, fly somewhere, wrestle at 2 o'clock, get back on the plane, fly to Greensboro or wherever or Atlanta, the Sunday night show, and do that. And then you could breathe because Monday you only had to wrestle once.
Is all judgment aside, we hear about AEW, and you were there, of course, and a lot of people who are inside the business are like, well, they work 1 day a week a lot of times. All judgment aside, is there a way to become a great professional wrestler with that kind of schedule? Like, you had a schedule that was terrible, life sucking, probably ruined a lot of relationships, but made you a great wrestler. Is wrestling so difficult that if you're wrestling once a week for a couple years, you might never get there?
If you were in your formative years, it would be very, very difficult to to not have the ring time in front of a live audience, to because you get their feedback. I mean, they're there and they give feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, on what you do. And if you are doing the job that you're supposed to do, you're getting a reaction that you want from the audience. If you're not getting that audience, then you make adjustments. Well, if you're not in the ring, okay, well, last night this was screwed up. This was not good. This was not good. So I've got to change it. But you got to change it in a live audience. You can't change it
Right.
in uh, in front of a live audience. You can't change it in your own mind in the dressing room. And that's the thing that I was too set in my ways to do, because I didn't have the ability to um lay all this stuff out, and I reacted. I never had to lay anything out. Arn didn't, Flair didn't. It was all okay. We're gonna play it by ear depending on what the audience does. And that's the way that I always did stuff. And it was like oil and water with the guys at AEW, because that's not the way they were trained and not the way they did stuff. But it all worked out good. And I got on TV for a little while and was on with some very great talent, and was thrilled to do that. And then you miss a show and you get fired.
Okay, well, that's that
that's, well,
that's
you
the
miss
Tully
work, you get
Blanchard
fired.
that's the
So
Tully Blanchard story right there. Um, um, the
you heard it first on TullyVision.
I tell you, man, that's the pull away clip, Chris, right there. So the Horseman, real quick, because we have time, and I just want to. I don't know how often I'll get to talk to you again. And I will say this: you were on TV with FTR during the pandemic. And a friend of mine I used to watch wrestling with a long time ago just messaged me, and he said, "Oh my God, dude, Tully Blanchard's on the TV because you used to watch Tully Blanchard. There were this great tag team FTR." And I go, "Dude, that's my song." And he's like, "Oh my God!" And it was like this moment where this friend who knew I was a Tully fan texted me to say, "Tully's back on TV," and I got to say, he's coming out to my song. So thank you for that, Tully. I told you privately, but I just want to tell you publicly as well. Thank you for that.
Well, that's awesome.
And
I'm
the
glad I
horse
got to meet you now.
Yeah, and I interviewed you a few years ago with Robbie E as well, and asked you a few of the same questions, but I got a different one for you now. The Horseman and Dusty, one of the reasons it works is because you guys were true to yourselves. Like, the character Tully Blanchard is like, I'm the best wrestler in the world. And Tully Blanchard, the person, seems to think he's pretty close to the best wrestler in the world. Same with the tag team, same with Ric Flair. Dusty Rhodes believes who he is. And so, was that a reason you're successful? Because you're able to kind of turn up, as they say, the volume to 11, and you were really not pretending to be anything you weren't.
I think that that's a very accurate way to describe it. Um, it was there were many talented guys that we wrestled with. Some of them didn't get the opportunity to wrestle against Dusty, but they wrestled against the Rock and Roll Express, who are absolutely dynamite. And if you couldn't get an audience to cheer for you, beating up Ricky Morton and giving Robert Gibson the comeback, it was, you need to, well, never mind.
Right.
But I mean, and then you had uh, Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, and maybe the greatest talker in professional wrestling ever. Uh, and so but you had to believe that you deserved to be and perform at that level. And the thing that we had the ability to do because of years of experience was, if something went a little haywire, nobody panicked and you just took it in stride, you know. And instead of somebody missing a spot and everybody stopping and going, oh, they were shocked, what do you do? And you just keep flowing. And gosh, it was really a treat to go to the ring with Arn every night, go wrestle, whether it was Dusty or whether it was Magnum. Uh, Although Magnum did beat me to death for 6 months, maybe 8 months. I know he had bruises on his hands from hitting me so hard, but that was kind of a joke. But
No, I get it. I get it. The punches look great though, because they were real. So.
I promise you, I've been in easier street fights.
So you're with all these guys and you're doing, um, there's a lot of different things going on, but with this feud over the TV title, eventually Dusty runs back ringside. He says what he said. Tony Schiavone is in the locker room with Dusty and Magnum. Magnum vows that he'll get the money back, but Dusty said he's not in any shape to get the money back, and they cry and hug together. Tony talks to Tommy Young to explain what happens. Tommy views the video and realizes he's made a mistake, but he stands by it on account that pro wrestling doesn't use instant replay. What an ego on Tommy Young. I tell you, Jim Crockett Jr. says the investigation is pending. And the following week, Jim Crockett announced on July 18th will be the night that Dusty versus Tully is settled once and for all. And they've seized $100,000 from JJ to make sure it's awarded to the rightful owner of the other match. And this leads to the barbed wire ladder for $100,000 at the Great American Bash, July 18th in Charlotte. So ladder and barbed wire, there wasn't much ladder stuff going on there. Were you taken aback a little bit and said, hey, wait a second, well, what is a ladder for?
They Yeah, but they strung the money up in the middle of the ring, and so you had to get the ladder to get to the money. And it was the whole thing about the match was getting the money. And I mean, they had a match at the WWE show that had the tag team belts up there. And so whoever got the ladder up and got the tag team belt, I didn't quite grasp all that. But
would you have did you see the match, the ladder match that you're talking about, the tag match?
yes.
Would you have climbed a ladder that high to get those? Because my Tonga Loa looked like he was about to cry up there. It looked really high when he went up there.
There are certain things that I couldn't do. And I told Arn, and we were in Wilmington, and he and I were wrestling Blackjack Mulligan and maybe Dusty in Wilmington at the football stadium. And they didn't put ringside seats down on the football field, just the ring. So Mulligan had done something and he hit the post and went down. So I jumped up and I climbed up to jump off the top rope. And I said, I was pretty graphic back in those days, but I said, wow, I better get down from here. This is too, you jump out on the football field,
Right,
it's too
right.
far.
Yeah.
So some of these younger guys that can do that stuff, God bless them. But I could jump off the top rope into the ring, but jumping off the top rope onto the floor was a different animal for me.
A friend of ours was supposed to do a superplex in an AEW cage match. Went in the ring, looked at it, said, "Nope, not doing it. It's too high." So it's okay to say no out there, right? Like, you don't have to do everything because some stuff gets a little dangerous these days.
I would certainly agree.
So speaking of danger, barbed wire. How much experience did you have wrestling with barbed wire?
I had a number of barbed wire matches with Dusty, and I hate barbed wire.
I
It
would, yeah,
is,
yeah.
I have, you can't hardly see it anymore. My little finger has, I, I got caught it on barbed wire and just ripped my whole little finger open. Um, just because barbed wire is barbed wire, and there's a reason it's nasty, and it catches you, and it has no forgiveness. It is it sold tickets. Um, I still have scars and head, ear, finger, hand, arm, and but it sold tickets back in those days.
And it is hard to work barbed wire. Barbed wire is not a great worker, man. I tell you, it looks extremely
Yeah,
painful.
and the thing about it is you can't do a lot of stuff because you can't hit the ropes because they wrap the barbed wire around the ropes, so you
Right.
eliminate the ropes out of any part of the contest. And um, the bull rope barbed wire match, I think we had one of those one time, and stuff. But the thing that was the to me catapulting off what you said earlier again, we were we weren't playing a part. We were being ourselves. And it was easy to be yourself and just add stuff to it rather than being a whole different character.
Right. If someone said, "Okay, Tully, you're British now," like that's not who you are. That's gonna be ridiculous, right? And that's what a lot of wrestlers are asked to do. They're asked to be actors. But
Yes.
when you have someone like yourself or Dusty, like I know Dusty believed every word he was saying on that microphone,
Oh
and
gosh.
with these kind of matches, like say the barbed wire, is it true when you're in there you really don't feel it and you feel it later, or what is that feeling, especially in front of such a live crowd? Are you just going for it and making bad decisions because the adrenaline is pumping so much?
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're bad decisions, but the adrenaline is pumping. And when you're in front of the audience, you're in front of the audience. And, I mean, you've been talking on television that you're going to kill Dusty Rhodes. Well, you can't get in there and tiptoe through the
You
tulips.
can't lock up, right? Yeah.
And so it was, and then you have the stuff and usually the weight belt and the cowboy boots and uh, all the extra stuff that you got. And every now and then JJ would throw something in the ring.
And you've done a lot of these matches. You've done a lot of the series of tape fist matches with Ronnie Garvin. So you're used to
Wow.
bleeding. Was okay. So watching Ronnie Garvin as a kid, I thought he was amazing. Watching him now, it seems like he just beats the hell out of people. Is that kind of what he did a lot? Like, was that a tough feud, Ronnie Garvin?
Oh gosh, Ronnie was a double tough guy, period. And but he could punch you, and oh my God, you would your neck and your body. I mean, he hit me one time, and I think my whole body short circuited, and I just kind of crumbled. I think we were in Memphis, but he had a right hand that would rival anybody's right hand.
Yeah, and those matches with him and Flair doing the chops, people
Oh,
nowadays think about chops. Watch a Flair and Garvin match. You will not believe what these guys are doing to each other. Um, in Garvin, something I notice about him is when he's in these matches on WC or the TV tapings, you were saying, people know what they're doing, but sometimes people don't know what they're doing. And different wrestlers had different approaches. I noticed, like Ronnie Garvin would put someone in, I guess you call a sugar hold, and just slap them a bunch. What was your approach when you got in that ring and you were in there clearly with somebody who was scared to death, had no idea what they were doing, were not prepared, but you got to do this match?
uh, usually just take them down and try not to just beat the tar out of them.
Yeah,
Uh, Still try to make it a little bit wrestling, because especially on TV, you need to you need to make your opponent to where you're beating somebody. So it is the last minute of a football game, and the guy catches the touchdown pass, and they come from behind and win the game. And so that's the one that gets the most screams and hollers.
sure.
So you want to have uh, you want to be able to beat something. You can't just go in there and beat somebody up and pin them because you
What have you
didn't
done?
do anything.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you could beat up a bag of clothes the same way.
And you kind of took pleasure in um, letting these guys look good sometimes. I want to ask you this because I don't know how often we'll get a chance to talk. But I always loved the way that you started a match with a handshake. Now, if you're not familiar with this, sometimes Tully Blanchard, bad guy, would just shake the guy's hand. And the guy would be like, what the heck's going on? Right. Other times you'd go to shake it. And later on, you'd try to shake again, you'd slap him. And other times you would pull it away and you'd slap him. And there was all these different things, and you usually started with some form of a handshake. That was a big tell into your character. I think that was always a very underrated, not talked about fast of your character.
Well, it was just there was um I tried to show that this was not just brutality from just
Wow.
brutes, that this was intellectual. And so I always tried to do a little bit of something like that that showed that I was smarter in the situation than my opponent.
And that's what came across, that you were thinking and you were getting under the skin, and it worked really well. And then on the big stage, you finally get to this Great American Bash. Now, this is the Great American Bash in '87. This is the series of Great American Bashes. Is this, or is this just one Great American Bash? I get my years mixed up
No,
sometimes.
there were a bash every year
Okay.
during
So
the summer.
this one, you have Tully Blanchard versus Dusty Rhodes, lights out, barbed wire ladder match. You probably don't remember specifics, but what's something you and Dusty, would you talk at all before a match, or would you keep the separate locker rooms and see each other in the ring?
No, we never talked before the match.
Wow. So when it comes to the end, you find out what the end is, and you just go in there and you just play it by ear, like everything is by ear.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
it always
It's pretty
fascinates me.
much it's pretty much anything that I wanted to do.
if like, so I've heard Arn talk about it that you kind of feel if you're throwing someone in the corner, you can feel if they want to reverse you. So you reverse somebody in the corner and you're running at Dusty. How does Dusty know what you're going to do? How do you know what you're going to do? Are you going off of what you see right there, or
You react to what he did. I mean, if he raises a knee, then you go down. If he doesn't raise a knee, you run into him. If he raises up an elbow, you do that. I mean, just like you would in a football game, or just like you would if it was happening for real.
man?
And I mean, it that's the way you made it look real.
Mr. Regal, William Regal, who I worked with for a while, I still call him Mr. Used to call it close up magic, right? It's like you have to do the magic. There can't be any holes in what you're doing, especially in a cage match, which can offer some challenges. I want to say I've seen you in a few cage matches. Your most famous moment ever was in a cage match. Where do you, it looks like everything hurts though. What is your thought on cage matches?
Um, they used to sell a lot of tickets, and you did what you needed to do to make the cage match mean something. And you can't have a cage match and never involve the cage. You can't have a barbed wire match and never involve the barbed wire. So you have to try to get away. You have to try to do things, and the cage won't let you get away. You want to get out of the ring. You do this, do that, and then flesh and metal. The metal usually wins, and yeah, that was the I Quit match, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you never did though. You never quit.
I never said I quit.
Nope, nope. Uh, with when you're doing this match, of course, we are at the match now, and you've got this thing coming up where you've got to do barbed wire, and it's got to be in front of a big crowd. How do you get yourself psyched up? You're an old football player, you played football. Do you get in that athlete's mindset? Like, you're about to take some punishment. Are you back there getting hyped up and, or or you getting in, are you centering intellectually? How are you preparing for the match that is going to hurt?
My pre-match routine was a little different than a lot of people's, because I many years uh in my early career, you'd go to the ring, and oh my gosh, you'd start fast doing something for 2 or 3 minutes, and God, you'd just be panting and blown up, and you'd have to get out of the ring. And so I started. What did I do in football? We'd go out and warm up, and we'd run plays, and we'd sprint, and we'd this, and you'd go through all that period of exertion to where you calm down, and then you're ready to play. And so what I would do is, my form of cardio would be free squats or step ups. And I would do 150 free squats uh, to get my heart rate up, I'd break a sweat, I'd be there, and then I'd calm down for about 5 minutes just as I was getting ready to go out. I mean, I would time it to where the match before me, or
Right.
the intermission or whatever, that I would have my heart rate up, my breathing would be up. So when I hit the ring, I was already in second gear.
Right.
And that made me, I was able to start cruising. I didn't have to go through that fall out of the ring, pant, lean over on the ropes, anything like that. And that I did that every night, or before every match. And uh, so that worked out really, really well. and then you were just ready to roll. And if the other team or if your opponent didn't have that same physical acuity, he would be panting over there, and I would be standing up in the middle of the ring dogging him.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about that time of wrestling. You're talking about all these things that are involved in the match. You know, you get your knee up, you get your knee down. One part of our culture that we have now that sucks is that people take botches. Like when wrestlers mess up, they take a clip and they put online and they say, "Look how this wrestler messed up." Right? It's a stupid thing. But we got like years and years of Crockett. No one's putting up any clips of botches from Crockett. To the amount, the skill level you guys were at collectively, and how few mistakes you make, might be the highest in the history of pro wrestling. Would you agree with that?
Um, I you would be a much better person to
Right.
analyze that. Um, I do know that the four of us um, were took tremendous pride in what we did in the ring and entertaining the wrestling fans, and we would do a lot of stuff. I mean, it is, you know, I walked down to the ring uh, during the afternoon at the WWE thing, and the pads are on the cement out there outside the ring and all that. I went, golly, I wish they'd have had those back when I was doing that.
I'm
Because
sure.
you'd get dumped out through the ropes, dumped out over the top rope, and you had to land on the cement. And, and it was hard.
Not not to mention the barriers now between the crowd and the
Oh yeah,
wrestlers.
we used to
You know,
have
like,
string.
yeah, rope. Yeah, you have a rope. Don't don't cross this rope. So you have the match at the Great American Bash, uh, and the ring ropes are covered in barbed wire. Most of the spots involve one guy trying to cut the other with a wire. Barry Windham is seconding Dusty. Dylan JJ's with you. The ladder never gets used as a weapon, just as a ladder. Dusty knocks you off the ladder, KOs you with a loaded glove. Wyndham keeps JJ from interfering, and Dusty's able to climb the ladder and get the money, make the people go home happy, and on to the next thing. What is your greatest recollection from this match?
Probably my paycheck.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Um, do you think, like I have this conversation all the time with people, you know, would it be better for wrestling if wrestlers had a vested interest in the crowd size as opposed to the guarantee? You know, we I hear that a lot, that maybe the wrestlers today don't care as much because they get paid the same regardless. But you got paid more because you drew a bigger crowd.
Well, if you were one of the reasons the crowd was drawn, you got paid more. Um, so I mean, it was important. I don't know that you're wrong about the guaranteed money and the paychecks all being the same, and um, it would it would really have to um, you'd really have to work on getting your mindset amped up to go to the ring. I don't know that because I never wrestled with guaranteed money. It
Right.
it
Right. You have to
so
pretend. Yeah.
uh, but it would be difficult uh, to to do that kind of stuff. Um, and Crockett paid well most of the time. Sometimes I felt that I should have got more in the match that I was in. But I mean, it's never a thing that I went and talked to him about. I'd gripe to myself or call my dad on the phone and gripe to him, and and then you're not going to change a lot of stuff, and then you just keep on going.
At this time, you were going to be transitioned into doing more tags. And of course, Dusty, uh, less and less of the company is going to start being, revolved around him, where every baby face or every bad guy has to talk about Dusty in their promos and stuff. Um, where did you feel you were going after this? You just lost the TV title. Were you thinking it's time to do some tags, or do you remember what your mindset was at the time post this match?
Um, it, I mean, we were at a level at that point that whoever I was going to wrestle, it was um elevated. So it wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to be wrestling some non uh
Sure.
guy on the card,
Right,
you
right.
know.
Top guys.
So yeah, and so even if you were, because the match, I was still the TV champion, even though I lost the money. So I could still go right back into defending the TV title
That's right.
against uh other guys, and those matches would have been there also until uh Dusty won the title, and then I think Arn and I were the tag team right after that. And so that changes your whole dynamic, and then life goes on.
I mean, as far as runs go, it doesn't get much better than the Horsemen and the Crockett territory and Tully Blanchard. And we thank all of you for listening to us today on TullyVision. Of course, I'm Matt Kuhn. I'm Matt Kuhn. You can reach me at Matt Kuhn Music, and this is available exclusively on ad-free shows. Tully, you got anything cool planned for the week? What are you up to these days?
I am actually getting on an airplane tomorrow morning, uh, and I'm speaking in a prison in just outside Fresno, California, and going to work for an organization that I used to work for, uh, the Bill Glass organization. And so it is. I'm going to go see some people that I used to work with and spend a lot of time with, and uh, then go share the good news of and the power of how Christ changed my life. And hopefully some of the inmates are ready to change and take a step that way, and then come back and next week play a little golf and uh, do some stuff. And then I'm going to a memorial service for a dear friend of mine that helped me in prison stuff down in Orlando, Florida. Jack Murphy, dear friend, and uh, we have a memorial service for him next weekend.
I'm sorry about your friend, and but I am glad and to hear of the work you do with the people in the prisons. Everybody needs someone to believe in them. Everybody needs someone to not give up on them. I want to ask one question from Aaron Sheen, because he's been here the whole time. We're going to close with a question today. It's Ask Tully. Where would you rank the Dusty feud in your career? I mean, it's number one, right?
It's got to be right up there at the top. It it really transcended my career. And whenever it was the nice spot that Dusty had me in was whenever he didn't have a thing going, he knew that he could put my name across from his, and we could draw. And that was the exciting thing, to be able to be one of the horsemen and to be in that position. And it was exciting.
Sorry, I got a text. I hate to be that guy, but this was a great episode. Tully, thank you for having me and agreeing to allow me to replace Conrad Thompson for one time only. And good luck in everything you do. Thank you, all you ad-free shows. listeners and people. And a good friend of mine that I never see or talk to ever is producing this, Chris McDonald, and he's one of the best people I know, and I'm glad he's along too. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on TullyVision.
Thank you, Matt. Bless all you people.